It's a simple idea. You collect some money up front when a tenant moves in, use that money if you find any damages when they move out, and then return anything left over back to the tenant. Security deposits are a vital part of being a landlord, since they can help offset the financial burden of needed repairs or missing rent payments. But there are a number of common mistakes that we see landlords sometimes make when it comes to handling them. Now, every state has its own set of rules that determine things like how much you can charge for a deposit, how those funds must be held, and how long you have to return the deposit back to the tenant once they've moved out. But there are also some general rules of thumb to follow in order to avoid costly fines or even litigation. Hi everyone, this is Brandon with Cosign Equity, a property management company based out here in Southern California, and today we've put together a list of 6 common mistakes that landlords make with security deposits and how to avoid them. So let's get started. Mistake number 1, failing to understand the law. As mentioned before, understanding the laws that are in place in your particular state with regards to security deposits is imperative. Yet sometimes landlords neglect to note the details. For instance, for residential tenants in California, you have 21 calendar days, not business days, from the date that the tenant moves out, before any remaining security deposit, and a letter explaining what was used for repairs and what is being returned must be mailed to the tenant. Failure to do so could open you up to a lawsuit and an appearance in small claims court. Another example is knowing what constitutes normal wear and tear, which is something that you cannot charge a tenant for. Being aware of these details can help you execute a good plan for the entire move-out process and ensure that you stay out of trouble. So do your research and keep up to date. One example of how you can do this is to join a trade group, such as the California Apartment Association, which represents owners, investors, developers, and managers in the state of California. Something like this can be a trusted source of information, and the annual costs can be written off as a business expense. Mistake number 2, not focusing on a strong move-in process. Other than the obvious tip of simply knowing the laws, the next mistake we see landlords make often is that they don't put an emphasis on doing a thorough move-in process. Typically, when people think of security deposits, they think of the inspection that takes place once the tenant has moved out and the calculation of all the damages that need to be charged. But a good move out is really difficult if you didn't already do a good move in. For instance, in California, a landlord can charge a tenant's security deposit for any work that is needed above and beyond normal wear and tear. And they can also be charged for cleaning the unit, but only enough to get it back to the same condition that it was in upon their move-in. Justifying any of those charges and having them hold up in court is very difficult if you didn't already do a thorough move-in inspection and document everything in detail. We recommend a few things. First, make time in your schedule to do a move-in inspection on the same day that the tenant is officially given possession of the space. Do the inspection on your own before the tenant arrives so that you can take your time and have no distractions. Take plenty of photos and videos of the space and make note of any items that are in less than perfect condition on a move-in inspection form. Once the tenant does arrive, walk them through the things that you found and have them sign that form. Next, in very open and clear terms, talk to the tenant about what the expectations will be upon their move-out. I know that might sound like we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves since we're still talking about the move-in process here, but trust us, the tenant is most receptive to rules and the entire move-in and move-out process when you're still holding the keys. Lastly, let them know that they'll be responsible for any damages beyond normal wear and tear. Let them know what normal wear and tear actually means and give them examples. Tell them that the space needs to be returned in the same or better condition than it is now, and what they can and can't do about making any changes, such as changing the paint color. Remember, this is your time to get on the same page as your tenant and start the relationship off right. So try not to schedule a move-in inspection if the tenant only has time in their schedule to simply pick up the keys, walk the space real quick, and then leave. Instead, give yourself ample time and be thorough. Mistake number 3, not doing a pre-move-out inspection. When landlords think about the move-out process, they tend to think only of the final move-out inspection that is conducted once the tenant has completely moved out. However, once a tenant gives you their 30-day notice, you should really consider doing a pre-move-out inspection with them as well. This inspection should be done a week or 2 before the final move-out date, so that you have enough time to address any issues with them beforehand. The goal here is, just like with the move-in inspection, to be as open transparent, and thorough as possible when describing your expectations, so that there is as little miscommunication and misunderstanding as possible. If they've left holes in the wall from hanging their TV or picture frames, let them know if they should repair those and if you charge to do it for them. If they've changed any of the paint colors, let them know if you require them to paint the walls back themselves to the original color and what the specific brand and color code they should be using. While walking the space, point out any issues that seem to go beyond normal wear and tear and let them know that they will be charged to fix them. If they have any dispute over this, it's much better to have that discussion now rather than having it after they've moved out. Lastly, make sure you tell them that the pre-move out inspection is only there to catch any glaring issues and lay down expectations, but that you still intend to do a final move out inspection once they have completely moved out and all of their stuff is gone, allowing you to look at every nook and cranny of the unit. Mistake number 4, not having vendors and quotes ready to go. Every state is going to have some kind of timeline that you need to adhere to when returning a tenant's security deposit and sending them an itemized list of all of your charges. But keep in mind that finding different vendors, having them go out to the property and look at the space, and then having them get back to you with a quote can take up a lot of time. That's why it's a really good idea to already have a few vendors on hand, preferably ones that you've worked with in the past, and schedule a date to meet with them immediately after the tenant moves out. Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling to pull together some bids and schedule the actual work before you can even think about charging the tenant's security deposit. Mistake number 5, not keeping detailed documentation. Having the right documents and keeping them well organized can go a long way. First and foremost, your lease agreement should have a special section that talks about your security deposit policy. When a tenant signs the lease, they are binding themselves to that language, and this makes a world of difference when it comes time to enforcing those terms once they move out. Still, as property managers, we know that just because something is written in a tenant's lease does not mean that the tenant read it carefully or even remembers it. This is why it pays to be redundant and thorough in your communication, and why we like to include a reminder of the security deposit policy in our acknowledgement to vacate letter, which is that letter that we send to tenants once they give us their 30-day notice. Once you complete any repairs and are ready to charge the tenant's security deposit, good documentation for the work that was completed and the costs incurred is essential. Your final disposition letter to the tenant should include an itemized list of all the work that was done, showing prices for each task, and the invoices that you paid to each vendor. Some smaller vendors aren't the best at providing you with detailed invoices, so if that's the case, ask them to call out specifics, such as the area of flooring that they had to repair or the labor hours that it took them to repaint all the walls. Lastly, oftentimes tenants who try to fight you on your security deposit charges will try to say things like, the apartment only needed repairs because you weren't very attentive as a landlord. Now, assuming that you were in fact attentive to their needs, having copies of all past communication, proof that you completed their maintenance requests, and any invoices that were paid can help you save so many headaches in the future. Using property management software can be the easiest way to keep all of this documentation in one place. Mistake number 6, not screening thoroughly enough. Finally, at the root of many tenant-related issues is the lack of proper screening before someone becomes your tenant. Proper screening must abide by fair housing laws as well as local laws, so be sure to watch our videos about that subject and do your own research. Generally speaking, the screening process helps to decrease the odds that your tenant will have any major disputes or problems with maintaining your rental unit. Of course, while we all want to fill our vacancies as quickly as possible, waiting just a little bit longer to thoroughly screen prospective tenants can go such a long way. Here are just a few things to look out for. Income. Does their household make enough income to comfortably cover the monthly rent? It's common for landlords to require that a tenant's gross monthly income is something like 2.5 times greater than the monthly rent amount. Debt. Does the prospective tenant's credit report show a considerable amount of debt obligations relative to their income? References. Many landlords skip this part, but calling the references that a prospective tenant lists on their application can be very useful. And no, I'm not just talking about their best friend or their sister that they listed as their references. The rental applications that we use here at Coastline specifically state that an applicant authorizes us to verify information by contacting employers and previous landlords. Now, of course, even if the screening process does go well, that doesn't guarantee that your future tenant won't put up a fight when trying to get their entire security deposit back at the end of their tenancy. But this point still needs to be made because, again, proper screening is at the heart of mitigating your risks and setting yourself up for a good tenant-landlord relationship from the very start. And so that's our list of 6 mistakes that landlords make with regard to security deposits. Do you agree? Are there any other specific tips or experiences that you'd like to share? Let us know in the comments down below. And if this video was helpful to you at all, help support our growing channel by giving it a thumbs up. From Coastline Equity, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.